Amazon is a sales channel. And if you're doing really well in that sales channel in your business, then your next step is to open another channel. So we are already at the cusp of automation that I don't think people realize how fast that's changing. And so they're acquiescing their urgency and their sense of urgency to take advantage of this. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur and you want to get into ecom, this is basically your year.
What I just heard from you is that if you're not using AI agents, you're already behind. Is that accurate?
In many ways, yes.
So I'd like to look at what some of the steps that businesses could take when they're looking at e-commerce and supply chain. What are the most critical data points e-commerce businesses need to track to effectively manage inventory?
Well, there's just-in-time inventory management that's a component of what we do and have gotten good at when you get to enough inventory movement and containers and shipping and logistics and time frames of freight and local and long distance travel, when it's on the ocean, when it's on a train, when it's on a truck. It has to be, managed. We use third-party logistics companies to really help us do that. And of course, to some degree, as an e-commerce company with physical products and physical brands, we have to sort of move with the market. Being an e-commerce business owner is something is akin to being a very agile cheetah, as we have to move and shift with the markets or container or freights or things that are late or things we expect to get here in certain timeframes and they don't, or manufacturing processes that might be an expected time frame and it takes a little bit longer possibly to get that product to market. And we're always really, when in certain supply chains like Amazon, we're very much balancing the ability to stay in product and keep product stocked up and available just in time. So there's there's no gaps, in the production timelines, so that we can ensure we don't stock out of inventory, because that channel with its algorithm, it really doesn't like it when you stock out. In fact, it hates it, and it can hurt your sales tremendously if you stock out. So it's a little different than, say, Shopify or your own website, where you might have a stock out thing for a bit and then you blast emails out and it's, you get everybody back on target again. It's a very algorithmic run thing, and it can be very troublesome if you run out of inventory. So the things we consider are time in market, time in material cost, of course, which have changed in the years. Material costs for certain types of goods, depending upon locations where we source them from and the raw material sourcing location. Sometimes it takes a little longer. The whole COVID thing, we're still just finally getting back to kind of a normalized supply chain after the dramatic aspect of sickness and shutdowns and transportation and logistics problems that were absolute nightmare that we had to deal with, and really taught us how to be stronger in forecasting what tools we should use better and which ones were failing us in terms of managing production and expectations of productions and timelines for products moving and in motion. And with that, we got a little more robust in the tool sets, because you hit 10 years of growth in 3 months, like the first quarter of 2020. And then you also get container prices that go from 4,800 to 25,000. It's super dramatic. And we see a lot of things in the geo and economic space, geopolitical space too, that are really defining where products are going to come from at what costs, and just day by day management of this conversation right now. And, near real time, as it seems to change every day. Now it's like we don't have stuff we get from Mexico directly or Canada, but I know that China had moved a lot of its facilities and productions into those locations to sort of bypass the normal tariffs. And now that the tariffs are on as of yesterday, they are not going to be able to skirt that. China had a lot of manufacturing it brought into Mexico and called it Mexican imports, when in actuality it was Chinese goods circumventing the tariffs that they didn't want to pay us. So because of that, they're going to have to pay now, as Mexico has 25%. Now China does too.
Do you see the US starting to kind of claw back some manufacturing in the near term?
Yes. I mean, there are manufacturers of all kinds in America. I think people lose sight of the amount of things that are actually produced in America, because as the consumerism, the propaganda machine of that consumerism has pushed us into certain technologies and cell phones, laptops, and other technologies that are now more, even though the chips we have in our cars and stuff, those have all been offshored. So the dramatic aspect of our life has been mostly around electronics. And so that impacts anything coming from electronic-based manufacturers and companies like China and Taiwan. So because that impacts our ability to work and operate these businesses like you and I do, or companies that need chips for cars and all this stuff, it's actually pretty dramatic for the American workforce. But when it comes to all kinds of other products, goods, services, skincare, supplements, health and wellness products, just about anything you can think of in the general manufacturing world, we actually make it in America. What we don't make is some of the critical components, like Taiwan owns 80% of the chip market. And with that, we're sort of, crushed in the ability to keep up with that technology set, although that's changing dramatically as some companies are deploying billions of dollars like X is into creating X AI out of Texas, where they've, got 150,000 NVIDIA 100s, if I'm not mistaken, to build out this giant AI supercomputer to try to get past that. So I see that it's moving. I see that it's growing extremely fast. I see that America in its entrepreneurial state, its capitalistic state, is going to invest more. Outside companies are saying, hey, we'll put 500, 600 billion, maybe a trillion dollars into the US economy to support additional manufacturing and production. But you still have to get that manpower. You still have to get the resources and materials, and we still have to get that manufacturing online. So we're in a turn year of opportunity, as I can see it. 2025 is a turn year, and in my business, we're making a turn too, to adapt and pivot with what I feel by 26 and 27 is going to be a dramatic change in America, as things onshore, products and movements created from jobs and opportunities will change dramatically. We're getting income back by canceling debts and stopping ridiculous spending into locations where it doesn't make any sense. Like who sends $50 million in condoms to Gaza? Why, are we sending $37 to WHO? Why do we spend $1.5 million on stupid crap to find out whether or not, whales have different genders? Just the stuff coming out of this is redonkulous. And I can't wait to see it come back to America, because we will see a tenfold increase in jobs and economy and manufacturing. But it's going to take us another, at least, I think, 12 to 18 months to really see that impact in America. And I believe, in my conversations, research, talking to people like you, people in our industry, there are quite a few of us who are extremely bullish on the changes we're making this year to take advantage of that.
Robotics are something that is pretty interesting. We see, they've kind of always been there, but lately it seems like there's been some profound advancements with robotics and AI in tandem, and particularly with the dexterity of the hand on Optimus and some of the other competing robots. Do you think by the end of the decade, we could get to a point where we have like robotic manufacturing on par or perhaps even superior to human manufacturing?
It's fascinating you mention that, because, you saw the thing with Elon brought his robot out. I forgot what it was called.
Optimus.
Thank you. It is called
Prime.
Optimus. That's why I should have remembered that. It's my childhood. Optimus, yeah. But he also realized those were controlled by humans, and they were controlled in the audio, but it was meant to give you the human state of replication. They were also training the AI when it was happening, if you heard about that, right?
I didn't, but that makes sense.
So they were training the AI into this interaction. We're going to train ourselves out of a job in the next 12 to 18 months for certain things. And it's already happening in manufacturing and warehouses where robots are being deployed. That is only going to advance faster. What is going to have to change for people is the technical or skill set level that doesn't require you to just move a box from one platform to a label to a conveyor belt, because the technology is going to do that with AI and robotics. It's just going to happen. We're going to have automated consumer production lines. It's already happening with cars and other places, right? So it's a natural progression that it's going to be expedited as we have a need and we have capital to do it. And both of those things are happening this year. So I see AI robotics happening in 24 months or less. That these systems that will come online in America will be ran by, large language models with AI AGL behind it, possibly using, X AI platform out of Texas and stuff to literally deploy a completely automated manufacturing division into America and have it up and running in no time flat. I mean, yesterday they had the cars delivering themselves. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Wild.
So we are already at the cusp of automation that I don't think people realize how fast that's changing. And so they're acquiescing their urgency and their sense of urgency to take advantage of this. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur and you want to get into ecom, this is basically your year. This is your window.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur who wants to scale and grow technology, you better get into figuring out how AI automates and creates systems of redundancy in your existing businesses.
Yeah.
To take and change your workforce into a mercenary based workforce with AI support, or you're going to be behind your competitors.
On that point, I was going to ask you, how can automation and AI driven tools help reduce manual errors in inventory management, going back to the e-commerce supply chain angle?
Well, we're using it to do the front end question and mid question and end question of what the hell do I sell, which is AI related agents and tools that go out and compile data from Amazon, our own database, and other information to pull back trends and information that greenlights products that we can sell. with confidence that that data and its accuracy provides what we need to go to market and test a product. From there, we have agents that show us what the particular product set should look like and which one it would actually choose as the highest conversion rate. It's like a focus group with AI agents. And it's actually so accurate now, we stopped using human focus groups, literally.
Because of speed and numbers?
Speed, accuracy, and the ability to compress time, of course, and get a product validated without waiting weeks. We can do it in hours.
We're already there. Wow.
Already there. So I can take that in, and we've tested it on multiple brands to test its efficiency. And we have come back multiple times with 99% confident that when I stick that information in the system, it tells me the highest converting listing, product data, image graphics, etc. And then comparing that to an actual focus group, we nailed it every time.
What I just heard from you is that if you're not using AI agents, you're already behind. Is that accurate?
In many ways, yes, because it's been around for like 24 months, right? So its evolution is becoming exponentially faster than we can even keep up with. There are so many AI systems popping up. We talk about DeepSeek, the next one is coming. The next one is coming. It's just going to replicate as the systems that are controlling, learning, and building the models are replicating the technology along with humans. So you're going to have to use it in ways that amplify your business and help your bottom line and help your current workforce get trained and trained over and up. And that just translates backwards into when we sell the product and we sell it to an AI engine like we do. And then that engine is helping deliver through AI mechanisms, warehouses, and automations, that product to the customer last mile. Then we have to know where we fit in that supply chain, what our job is, and then how to deal with the ability to reach those people with the amount of product that's going to increase by that demand. It's increasing every year, but we're reaching a point of critical mass adoption. Like just in 2023, in December 2023, roughly, if I got my timeline right, mobile desktop buying mobile buying on the phones surpassed desktop. So we have just hit 2 years into mobile's ability to increase the speed at which we consume products, which directly impacts supply chain. With that, we see things like June of 2024, when TikTok had its first $1 million hour live on the platform. And then not long after that, that's becoming a standard. So they're breaking $5 million in 3 hours. And pretty soon, those standards are going to change too.
Pretty soon, the phone's just going to manufacture whatever you need right there.
Pretty soon, you're going to put a plug in. It's going to hit an automated facility. They're going to manufacture the product. It's going to deliver itself to your door.
Could you share a case study or an example of how better data tracking led to significant improvement in inventory turnover?
So we have a customer literally who I was just talking to. We're in the process of evaluating his business for acquisition. So he's talking to us now about acquiring the company we helped him turn around about 24 months ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting. And he's willing to have that conversation. And I'd love to keep him on as an operator and make him a fair deal and see him come, get a double dip and us see a great business and achieve greater goals than he wanted to achieve in the next 2 years that we might be able to achieve together, and he'll win even bigger. And we all kind of win. It's great business. But he came in doing about $30,000 a month in revenues, but he was spending around $25,000 or more a month. He was really kind of going, I haven't figured this out. I'm not making money. I don't understand what's going on. And like any situation at the beginning, you are usually the linchpin when you don't have the knowledge and experience. So you got to figure out the time to invest in the knowledge in yourself, or you go invest in things right? He was willing to invest in the business. He was willing to invest in himself. And we took that $30,000 and got him to $100,000 in 3 months after that. Why? It wasn't that his products didn't work. It wasn't that he couldn't make sales. He actually was in the wrong frame of mind. I know it sounds cliche, but what we unlocked were confirmations that he had that he couldn't justify in the marketplace, questions he couldn't get answered in application and process and strategy. And we simply helped him answer those questions so he could execute properly. And we sort of got him out of his own way. And showing him the systems and technology to help validate that was an important part, because we have our SaaS tool we showed him. And that helped him evaluate his product and his market and his competition and realize where he was and where he needed to go, because previously he was flying blind. You can't fly a business on your emotional gut. And that's kind of where he was. And so we showed him a path forward with data and process, and then 100,000 became 200 and 200 became 500. And now he's opened up, 50,000 a month on Shopify. He's doing around 6 million a year in sales now. And that's about 24 months after we started with him.
I imagine the margins are also better there.
Margins went up, market increased. He has a very good advertising cost of sale. for acquisition, which means he can actually get to $250,000 a month on Amazon. It's just a matter of time now in dialing in his marketing and continuing to increase his spend. He'll go from $500,000 to $250,000. It's just a matter of time now. And he can easily get to $1 million a month in that business because his market share is not even 1% of the market share available for his product base. So there's tremendous upside potential. And he's got a great brand. He's done a great job. He's very thoughtful in the business, very thoughtful, and very frustrated with the, why can't I figure this out? I'm smart enough to do this. I've got the understanding of the business. Why can't I get this freaking thing to work? Part of what we showed him was our experience in the algorithm. He did not understand how the algorithm really has abundance. That's the easiest way to see it. Like with this thing doing 8,600 units a minute on Amazon is just one channel of sales. And then you get to TikTok or Shopify and you have meta traffic and all this other stuff where you can reach millions of people extremely fast. He just didn't understand how to unlock that. I guess is the best way to say that. How to unlock that, algorithmic juice that he was missing. So his organic sales could overcome his PPC sales, which is a benefit of the Amazon channel. And now he has 60, 75% organic sales. He has 20, 30% PPC sales. So he inverted that relationship and, of course, increased his profitability quite a lot in that process.
Amazing. You mentioned the just-in-time for the supply chain that your businesses have used. Could you talk about some of the supply chain risks that are most common for small and medium-sized e-commerce businesses?
Well, there's a risk for all businesses in the movement of product. Okay. You might have heard of the Houthis off the South Coast, pirates, shooting up ships. That's so crazy out there. They even have like a Russia tour guide where you can pay money to go and be on one of the ships and shoot AK-47 that's at the pirates.
What? That sounds like a UHF. That doesn't sound like...
No, it's like a destination thing where you like go on the cargo ship and you get to shoot, at the pirates.
You saw UHF, right? With Weird Al Yankovic.
God, that's old school, dude. You're bringing up like old school, man.
But that seems like one of the commercials that you would see on there.
It sounds like it, but it's actually real. And I was like dumbfounded. And I was talking to my wife about it, and she's like, "You don't want to do that, do you?" I'm like, "Heck no, dude. I don't want to go out and fight pirates in the ocean. I hate the ocean. I mean, I love the ocean, but I don't want to be on the ocean. That's a deep water fear I have." But anyways, products and logistics usually come down to the risk level of the entrepreneur and their ability to capitalize their risk. Okay. Typically it's them. It's a little bit of a David story, but it's also the story of any other successful smaller business who wants to become an SMB, a mid-sized business, is to get over that risk and move past and get out of their own way. And one of the ways you have to do that in a physical product business is level up the capital increase of the product, the inventory asset. You've got to churn, right? A $10 million year business turns $1.5 million in inventory on average every 90 days, depending upon the velocity of sales or the product type or profitability of that business. So you've got to be able to move that inventory, capitalize that inventory. Of course, tracking and logistics companies support us in that process and help with insurance and problems if a container falls off a ship and goes in the ocean, which is a problem for smaller businesses who need that capital as opposed to bigger businesses who are like, well, that's why we have insurance. We write it off. Smaller businesses are like, crap. That was $50,000 in inventory that's gone, and now I have to reorder it and wait 4 more months for it to show up. That's pretty catastrophic, right? So we have to plan and forecast a growth model by which we are, using systems and tools, processes, and understanding and experience together to look at how fast product moves, how much extra you should order, when you should order enough time to ensure overlap of inventory. While it's a little more costly, it ensures continuity of business. And even secondary or redundant supply chains to locations in different places that may shorten it. They may have better air freight or transportation costs or logistics. You may be able to get, half the container, flown in at a lower or mid cost price to keep your inventory while the rest of it's on the water. Yeah. There are ways to mitigate that. They're usually always going to cost you. That's part of the business. So small or medium-sized business owners have to understand that as a cost of operations, properly track and maintain that supply chain. And of course, look at the cost down to the freight and logistics cost. And that changes and varies, not as dramatically as it did in 2020, not 25,000, but it can vary between 4,000 to 6,000 to 8,000 a container, depending upon time of year. And when those kinds of things change, that's when, you have to be prepared in different times and years and seasons for different challenges with your inventory. It's not as obvious as pirates attacking the ship.
It sounds like trying to hit a moving target from a moving platform. There's many variables there.
There are a lot of variables, and not all of them you control as much as you would like to, but you control more of them than if you're an affiliate marketer who doesn't control the product, or if you're a creator who's doing videos and you don't control the product. At least in this way, we control the ability to change supply chains, even change locations. We have third-party logistics companies on each coast. We have a smaller one in the middle of the company, so we can move products in if we run into logistics problems with Amazon warehouses, right? Because Amazon warehouses, they did a really stupid thing. They oversold their Amazon Warehouse Distribution Service, AWD. And in that process, they ended up jacking up the system prior to the holidays here in November and December 2024. And with that change of desire to get people kind of out of their FBA warehouses and over to their AWD warehouses, which they brought online during the COVID in order to hold capacity, they said, hey, AWD is cheaper. You bid, you auction, you get your containers in there, and when it checks in there, we'll make sure it's live on FBA. So don't worry if it's in AWD, it'll act just like it's in FBA. It'll act like it's in our primary warehouses, and AWD our secondary warehouses. And with that, we're like, ooh, they signed up hundreds of thousands of sellers, probably over 1 million, and they just oversold it. So what happened is when people are trying to get all their product in, people couldn't get the product checked in. We checked in stuff in November that didn't show up until like the second week of December. And we're like, what the heck? So then they increased the fees because they realized they had to charge more because they hadn't properly scoped out the cost per square foot in those warehouses at AWD. And they had to pass that back to the sellers, which pissed everybody off.
Could you talk about how real-time data analysis helps these SMBs spot potential disruptions before they escalate?
So we use a couple of different softwares. One I can give a shout out to. It's not mine, and I don't have an affiliate relationship with the Seller Board, but Seller Board gives us a individual SKU by SKU related profit analysis of the product, and of course, inventory tracking and management of that product are tied in when we know shipping and product manufacturing timelines from the manufacturer. We enter that in there, and that helps us track as inventory goes through a sell-through rate, because it does connect to the Amazon account and tell us what our sell-through rate is. And then helps us understand when we should get more inventory coming in a more of a just-in-time nature, right? And making sure that if there was a month-long or 2-month-long gap, that our sell-through rate would be able to keep us in stock and balance out that window of change. A lot of people don't do that. So there's just-in-time and there's just-in-time plus 20 to ensure continuity of product movement, to keep sales moving and not be disrupted by supply chain. Those kind of tools and processes really help us make sure that we're properly forecasting. So we also know how to properly forecast cash flow, sell-through rate, and a certain amount of product goes into kind of a war chest of reordering, if you will. And then we've got to up the inventory level from cash flow to get that next order in. But when you grow fast enough, your manufacturing terms can change. It's usually 30-70. And then very quickly, as you grow and build into that relationship with them, you can change those terms and get them more in your favor as you build up.
Could you talk about any hidden benefits or brand building opportunities when a product is fulfilled by Amazon?
Yeah, because so in simple terms, we leverage Amazon as a first channel of a brand incubation strategy, because I can go borrow their customer base who are already hyper interested in buying and want to spend and do spend over $1,400 a year on Amazon. With that, I can leverage a brand into that system that gives me the ability to go into an existing audience conversation who is in demand. We call it the psychology of the buyer, right? Who wants that product. It's already in demand. I want to get that product in there as quickly as possible. I can use their warehouse and logistics to do a lot of the heavy lifting, so I don't have to warehouse it myself and do all that nonsense. And I can just focus down on what is it that I want to sell to the engine, what do I want the engine to believe, what do I want the new AI systems that came online earlier this year, like Rufus and Cosmo. What do I want them to know about me as they're positioning information and data about my brand and creating an avatar of my brand inside of their model that they're going to use to turn around and remarket back out to the system, including ranking of the product in the system now. So I really want that to be trained, and we call it primed correctly. I want to prime the engine correctly with that information so that I can gain maximum traction in that marketplace, because I can, in America, it's like 49% of all online sales. So for that reason, I'm going to go there and prove that I can incubate a product and a brand that no one's ever heard of under the Amazon brand of trust and delivery and last mile and returns and customer support and all the things we've come to, you and I and others have come to appreciate about that system. knowing the product's going to show up or how we deal with it, all the way down to leaving a negative review if we don't like it, right? And they're good at retargeting us now and understanding what other products we want. And that's changing very dramatically with AI too. So that system allows us the freedom of automation within it to focus on the marketing and branding development of that product base so that we can reach that customer avatar more. We can capture that demand and innovate that demand into our favor for the type of products that we're going to change up or launch. And then from there, have a really good understanding of the type of audience and conversation that has been going on with branded products like ours, so that when we reverse that out to the user generated copy, the advertising, the direct response channels, TikTok lives or anywhere else this product goes, even into retail, we're going to have a good conversation and understanding of what that brand represents, having incubated it off of that platform first.
And what's the timeline for that typically?
We typically have a 12-month window by which we are building a brand to market, but a brand is beget by multiple products, meaning that most people think it's an inverse relationship with the way that we sell a brand. And actually, you develop the product first to validate the market around a brand concept, and then you evolve the brand so that it leads the products. Therefore, you can change up the products or promote additional products, but the brand ultimately leads the narrative, the emotional connectivity, and the value statement forward as we launch additional products into it. That takes us from 0 to 100K in revenues relatively fast. We've got repeatable case studies of doing that within 30 to 60 days. And then from there, defining where we deploy more capital, more marketing, to turn that 100,000 in revenues into 100,000 a month in MRR, monthly recurring revenue. And then from there, replicate those product baselines out so that, that's is example that some people understand would be that, there's 20 different burger joints and 20 pizza joints, right? Those are all brands. At the end, they sell burgers and pizza. But why do you choose one or another? Because there's product variations within there that you like. Yeah. And our job is to, in this way, borrow that from retail, the same way we borrow it from Apple's iMac, iPad, whatever. And we replicate down until we're very hyper hedgehogged, if you will, from good to great, into a brand seller account, products and brand that just sell that. If we sell dog beds, that's all we sell there, dog beds. And we sell the most amount of dog beds we can gain to get the most amount of market share in that area until we just keep taking over the market share with that area. And just, they say success is boring. So that's why I like to create more brands and work with more people on new brands, because once these things are up and running, so much of it becomes automated in time, in market and growth, that, you get a little bored with it, because it's just going to take time. And so you need new challenges. You open new marketplaces, you go to different channels, and you challenge yourself to open up new areas of business.
Could you talk about some of the potential downsides now of putting all your fulfillment eggs in one basket, in this case, fulfilled by Amazon?
Amazon is a sales channel. Okay. To be very clear, if anybody heard me, it's not a business, it's a sales channel. And if you're doing really well in that sales channel in your business, then your next step is to open another channel. Okay. It is to validate market and channel. It is using the FBA system for what it is, which is a third-party logistics company. That's what it is. It's what they were before they got bought and rebranded into FBA. Okay. And it's the 6th largest logistics company in the world. Now, they have their problems because they're large. And they got planes, trains, and automobiles now, and even ships. So they do the whole thing, right? So if I'm going to use an omnichannel strategy that allows me to focus on the growth, not just the operations, and keeps my economies of scale low, then I'm going to use the FBA and AWG systems to move product that sells from TikTok, to move product that sells from Shopify, to move product that may sell in retail and other locations. And I use that like a logistics company, right? They have their problems, they have their challenges. So do third-party logistics companies. As mentioned, I have those in our wheelhouse to use as well, so we can create continuity should there be challenges with FBA and AWD. So we can move product out of those other warehouses if needed, right? And so the end story is always about redundancy.
Yeah, but not too much redundancy.
But enough that you can contain supply chain and growth, that you can maintain movement of product and velocity of product turnover, and that you can open additional channels without totally having to reinvent the wheel. Like, well, I want to start selling in Shopify. Well, now I need to go get a third-party logistics. I got to hire customer support people. I got to deal with last mile, UPS, and all that other nonsense. And that becomes a big struggle, including all the technicalities of running that kind of store. I kind of analogize Amazon like the iPhone and Shopify like the Google Android people. One is kind of built into the cake. It sort of does what you want to do on the iPhone side. While it doesn't have all the features and functions that the Android does in many ways, they're way behind on some of that innovation. You can tweak the crap out of an Android. You can update it. You can reboot its ROM. You can do all kinds of stuff and play and tweak and geek out on it. And that's how you operate a Shopify store. In my experience, having run one to more than 100,000 a month is a lot of mechanics in the moving. It's a lot of tweaking. It's a lot of conversions and CRO, customer optimization. And so the affect of that means more management and more tweaking and more dialing in, where Amazon is it's already done kind of thing. It's a split tested funnel. They do all the split testing. It has its pros and cons. I'm not, like I said, I'm not really a fanboy of either of those. At the end of the day, I just want them to work. And Amazon has done some dumb things. It's been more costly. We don't sell products less than $50 and don't recommend anybody does. We say friends don't let friends sell $20 products because Amazon will eat your lunch. You just can't make them profitable anymore, right? You can make the volume, but you can't make the profits. And a lot of people are getting misled into that, honestly. You got to sell 50 or higher on Amazon, or you simply won't get the profits to run the business at the end of the day. Which begets the cost of supply chain logistics and everything else we just discussed, loading up onto that product and not making you 50 cents before taxes.
What are some creative ways entrepreneurs are differentiating their brand on Amazon's platform?
Well, Amazon, it's capable of doing the PPC marketing engine. It's capable of doing what's called sponsored ads, sponsored brands. Is able to run videos. It's able to run top of header, top of search marketing placements, in listing placements, and other ways where you can start to market your brand inside of that ecosystem. Much like ad placements from AdWords would be on a Fox website, right? It's kind of no different than that. You can take over that market share inside of other listings. You can take top of search for target keywords, and you can really get your brand all over the place inside of it now. Marketing emails, if you do enough volume, they'll send it out to their list of Prime members, and you can show up in their emails with your brand. They're being more brand centric in terms of stuff they put in Seller Central. We have brand managers now for certain accounts that help us, create brand assets and stuff, including what's called A+ content and A+ premium content that we use to create very detailed and beautiful listings on Amazon, which you've probably seen if you've ever searched on it. So we get much more information about our brand in front of the customer. So Amazon is becoming very brand centric. And in that way, it's shutting down a lot of the other seller mechanisms that have been in place: wholesale, retail arbitrage, shop your way to wealth, and this kind of stuff. They've on rumor, because I don't know exactly how many it is, I've heard upwards of 200,000 accounts got shut down last year. They were doing all of that. They didn't meet a certain threshold of sales, so they cut them off, or they were just flipping products and jumping on listings. So they have gated people or stopped them from being able to do that. So the side hustle hobby business of Amazon sort of died about 2 years ago, but most people haven't caught up because, well, there's people selling courses out there on how to do it. So they haven't caught up on the fact that the platform is doing everything possible to stop you from doing those kinds of seller mechanisms. With brand and private label, they're doing everything possible to make that come forward now.
What are some of the most important metrics or signals that indicate it's time to expand to other channels?
Usually it's going to be, in my world, it's going to be a positioning of the business where you realize your time, energy, attention, and money that was focused on building that first channel is gotten to a place where it's relatively automated enough that through systems, operation controls, VAs, and a certain component of operational controls and operational independence has been built into it, if you do it right, so that you can then focus time, energy, attention, and money on opening another vertical, either through knowledge, education, hiring, and managing somebody to help you with that. But you can now focus on that one, knowing that you haven't left the hen house with the foxes over here, your first sales channel that's doing really well. So it's going to be at different times. I usually tell my people, and we won't go off until we get to a 7-figure brand on Amazon first. When we've got the market share, intention, and we got enough stability in the growth of our market share, knowing that if we take our eyes off the wheel a little bit to work on something else, it's not going to come off the car and kill everybody, that we then can focus that time on a different channel. So David's story is another good one. He got past $500,000 a month in sales, pretty stabilized, operational manager now, very freed up in a lot of the things that he was doing, that he kind of built redundancy into the business, force multiplication, if you will. And so he was able to focus on just Shopify. So now he's educating himself, taking some courses as he's decided to do, and looking to hire some additional people to help him out with that, to grow that. And as mentioned, he's even looking at an acquisition strategy potentially to help him go faster in the things he doesn't know and into the relationships he doesn't get. But each of those channels are going to be different. Okay. It may not make sense for your product on Amazon to be on TikTok. We do a part of our what the heck do we sell research looking at other channels of sales to determine if a product like ours is selling and selling well in those channels, so that when we get our success in Amazon, we already know there's products selling over there. We're not guessing, right? We know there could be a move. If it's Walmart or maybe Macy's for certain kinds of products or other marketplaces, we're going to want to know where we can take this product next. Not everything fits in retail, right? Products that we're designing on Amazon are going to be Amazon unique, and we have to vary products and variations to take to retail. So it's not exactly like the one on Amazon. So you have to come up with those concepts and ideas as well, and that takes some time, energy, and money, obviously, to make that happen. So it's a natural progression of business that as you learn and get experience, the wisdom will tell you when it's time to do it.
And it sounds like a lot of these lessons stack or compound. So it probably helps to talk to people like you who have been in the game a while and kind of can read signals a few steps ahead than someone getting in there for the first time.
Well, you can absolutely get going. You can watch YouTube videos. I've had a couple people come in the last month talking to me how they got started on their own, which is amazing because they're tenacious and go-getters. That's why I want to work with them, because they got to a certain point where they did it on their own, and that's super cool. But they ran into the same problems. They spent way too much time researching internet information, YouTube videos, and questions, only to get completely caught up in analysis paralysis, not knowing whatever to do next, not knowing exactly what steps and process they should take. And so they sort of stagnate their business. They get a little bit upside down. And then by the time they reach me, they're like, help, like, here's my baby. Help me breathe life back into this thing that I started and got down the road. And sometimes they're a little more cynical. I get it. They're a little frustrated, a lot of time, energy, blood, sweat, and tears. And they're like, well, what can you do for me that no one else can do? And it's like, well, I'm sorry that they hurt you. Put the bad man in a box and let's refocus to the next steps. I'm interested in working with people who are interested in helping themselves, but I'm never interested in convincing people to work with me.
Fair enough. We spoke a little bit about some of these, but what other future trends do you see in e-commerce supply chain management that business owners should prepare for today?
Well, I mean, the systems and tools are out there. Most people aren't using them to their best understanding because it's usually a knowledge gap. As what tool do I use and how do I manage it to even help me with this? I shout out to Sellerboard for doing a great job. I don't need to go build one of those or replicate it, and I don't affiliate it. So, they've done a great job of helping you understand the profitability of a product and just in-time movement of that as you put in the information and track it, which creates a lot of help in an Amazon business for automating market, just in time inventory and extra inventory you need to cover gaps and any challenges for the continuity of your business. I think what people are missing, if they're trying to do that on gut feel, if they're like, well, I think I should order 1,000 units next, or maybe I should get 2, or maybe I'll only order 500. If that's ever entered your mind, you've already lost. You're running your business on gut feel. If you don't know that you're turning over 1,723 products in 90 days and your goal is to turn over 3,250 in the next 90 days, you need to know exactly how much product you're going to order, when it's going to be there, how it's going to be organically and PPC marketed, and what it's going to take for you to get to that 3,200 units instead of 1,700 in the next 90 days. If you can't answer those questions in your business, you're still running it all by gut feel.
If you had to boil it down to a single piece of advice regarding supply chain management, what would it be?
A single piece of advice regarding supply chain management.
Specifically for, let's say, small to medium-sized business CEOs.
Know your numbers. I cannot tell you the number of times I've come in and talked to a business owner who tells me, what do you think you can do to help me? And I ask them about the business numbers and they can't answer. They don't know about their logistics costs. They don't know about the overhead or landed cost on their product, not by the numbers. They don't understand time and market for their product development, redundancies of their market share for their business or their supply chain in case something happens. They're usually so down in the trenches that they can't see the forest through the trees because they're so in the weeds that they're just fighting fires every day, every week, every month to keep things moving. And so they are usually behind the 8 ball when it comes to making changes.
Well, once again, Neil, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Folks can go to your website at voltagedm.com. Are there any updates or events that you want to tell us about, or anywhere you want to point us in addition to that?
I have, if you go to voltagedm.com, I'm going to put up a banner later for this. We have a community group we're part of called the Wealth Without Wall Street, which is all about wealth creation, preservation, the building of automated income like we talk about. And, we're going to do a live event on the 20th. If anybody is involved in, signing up for one of my email lists, through free aspects, or grabs the book. There's a book for the digital copy you can get instantly for $4.99 on our book funnel. You'll be in the notifications list for that upcoming live training that I'm going to do personally on the 20th at 2 p.m. Central, and we'll send out notifications for that. So if you want to jump on a live workshop and go dig into these details more, and specifically the 4 things to building a 7-figure physical product business and sell it for an exit in 2025, that's going to be the topic of conversation on the 20th.
Sounds amazing. Look forward to that. Well, thank you once again.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Great questions, by the way. Well, you put me on the spot. That's awesome.
I try.